On today's top 5, we're talking about Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, heck, we even got Star Wars. Stay tuned, fans. Hey comic book fans, welcome back to Comic Book Corner 2.0, and fans, you're back with me, Mike Spider Slayer, getting ready to bring you my top 5 comic books of the week, and this is for April 10th, 2019. That's right, fans, and now these rankings are based off of the books you guys picked for me to review when you were watching my comic book haul live show that takes place every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to give you guys a top 5. I'm going to give you an honorable mention and a worst pick of the week. So guys, at any time during this video, if you like it, please give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to hit that all important notification button so you don't miss any content from me. So guys, also there will also be spoilers, so if you haven't read your books yet, read them, then come back and watch this review show. Alright, so without further ado, let's kick this off with the worst pick of the week. And my least favorite book this week out of the 7 that I have read so far is Superman. This is issue 10, written by Brian Michael Bendis. We get to see the conclusion to John's story of what has happened to him in all these years that he's been away, which equals 3 weeks Earth time. So basically, John is now like a 16-year-old boy at this point. So we wind up finding out the conclusion of what his battle was like against Superwoman, and you know, and we get to see some emotional moments between the parents and John as well. We get to see more craziness from Jor-El, which they kind of spent a lot of time, a lot of panel time on discussing about how long he has been away and how he was irresponsible and went to go leave Grandpa and whatnot and things like that. And then we find out how Superboy gets his costume, and then the next thing we find out is that the breach, there was a breach in the hull of the spaceship, and Superboy winds up running into, what's his name? That weird creature-like guy. I don't even remember what his name is. I totally forgot. Rogozar. Yeah, that's it. So Rogozar. And then Superboy winds up going back home to Earth, and after the story was discussed, we wind up seeing Superboy go back into space with his father so soon, and there's this intergalactic war that is going on, and that's how the book ended. I just don't like it. I don't find myself attracted to this book. I don't like Rogozar. I thought we were done with him. He's still here. And I don't like the direction that this book is going. The cliffhanger was just uninteresting for me. And, you know, the artwork is okay. But overall, it's just not a book I'm enjoying right now. I think Peter J. Tomasi wrote a much better Superman than what Brian Michael Bendis is doing. The thing that I did like was the emotional moments, and I did like how the Leviathan story was mentioned in this book too, and so you can see that Bendis is paying attention to the cross of how this is kind of crossing over between both books. So I like how he's paying attention to that and not leaving that detail out. But the overall story, it just seems like not much has happened. John's done telling his story, and now we're going into this intergalactic war. We'll see what happens with Superman, but not my favorite book by far this week. And I'm sure it'll probably be pretty low in the overall scheme of things as well. Alright, so now let's move on to the honorable mention book. This one goes to Star Wars Age of Rebellion. This is Princess Leia one-shot. Okay, if you guys want to spend your money on this, I think this is a solid read. I don't think it's the best read, but it is cool if you want to see what happens with Princess Leia between Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, right before she's going to rescue Han Solo from the Carbonites. And so what happens in here is we see that she wants to pose as the bounty hunter Bosch. I think that's the bounty hunter's name. And she wants to kind of sell her disguise to make people think that she is the bounty hunter. Because if she can't sell other people on the disguise, how is she going to sell Jabba the Hutt? So I thought that was really cool there. So we get to see some cool interactions with her and Lando. Lando is attacked and she goes to rescue Lando, and Lando actually thinks she is the bounty hunter at first, and so I thought that was a kind of cool moment as well. This book suffers though from multiple artists, and I think that took away from the book as well. I like how she fooled some of the other bounty hunters in this book, like Bossk, who is one of the best bounty hunters in the galaxy besides Boba Fett. And how she had to rescue Chewie and whatnot too. My one downfall with this book is that I wanted to see Leia actually attain the suit from the bounty hunter, and this scene took place off panel. I think if we actually seen her attain it and attacked the original bounty hunter Boushh, I think it would have been a much more memorable scene and probably a more memorable comic book, because her having this suit and how she became this bounty hunter is a very important role. And if this took place in this comic, this would have been much more impactful, and you would remember, oh, I know how she got this suit, where you kind of don't really remember how she got the suit. She's just posing as this bounty hunter to try to sell it to people. So this could have been a much better story, a much better one-shot, and I think they kind of went in the wrong direction a little bit with this. But it is a solid read, and if you have the extra money, I say definitely pick this one up, because it's always cool to see what happens in these in-between stories with Return of the Jedi and Empire Strikes Back and Star Wars and whatnot. Alright, so now we're going to kick off the actual top 5. And my number 5, and you might be a little bit surprised by this, but my number 5 was The Amazing Spider-Man issue 19. Now remember, this is not my definitive top 5, so this book, by the time I read all my books, might not make the final cut in the top 5. I thought this book was more of a setup to the story. We have a lot more questions now than anything when it comes to this book. Kraven's son has questions for his father about what's your whole point in capturing these villains for other hunters to hunt when you should be the ones hunting. We don't get that answer yet. We don't know Black Cat's plan yet to get Kurt Connor's son out of prison and them actually escaping. We have a lot of standing around and discussing between Vulture and the bad guys, and Vulture trying to be this leader out of all the villains, saying that he held Gibbon in his hands and he wants to honor Gibbon's death and things like that. And then we also get the revelation of Ant-Man trying to give Spider-Man the true meaning of what this place actually is, because Black Ant was betrayed in the last issue by Taskmaster. And also Taskmaster captured Kurt Connors himself. So what happens there? So we don't get any revelations or anything, any answers. We just get more setup. And so I'm at this point now where I'm like, okay, I'm kind of done with the setup. I don't want it to stall too long. I want the story to progress. I like this story. I just didn't think it made enough progression. We're getting more and more, setup here, and it gets to a point where it's like, all right, enough of that. The artist wasn't Humberto Ramos. It was a different artist this time around. Not a huge fan of it, because there's this whole huge over exaggeration on the artwork on there too, by Anthony. No, I'm sorry, I'm trying to see who the actual artist is in this one. Ronaldo Sandoval, that's the artist. So it was okay. It wasn't the greatest Spider-Man hunted storyline. We'll see what happens going forward with it. And yeah, so that's all I got to say about that one. Alright, so next, coming in at number 4 this week. This one goes to X-23. This is issue 11. I thought this one was pretty well done. I love impactful moments when it comes to a comic book, and, Superman had a couple of those, but it didn't define the issue. I think X-23, Dear Gabby Part 1, defined this issue and this story to come, because the whole thing was an emotional book. In this book, we have Laura and Gabby. They're at odds against each other because they have different beliefs on what they should do with the clones that they're trying to stop or save. Gabby believes in saving them. Laura believes in killing them so they don't pose any more of a threat. And they just don't see eye to eye on that. And they get into a very much heated discussion about the whole situation here. And then what happens is Gabby winds up leaving. And Laura realizes when Gabby leaves, she doesn't know what to do with herself without Gabby. It's very sad. And Laura doesn't know how to deal with certain situations at times because, you know, she was built that way to kill and have not a very heartful heart. You know, she wants to kill when necessary, and it's still hard for her to contain her inner emotions on just destroying everything. So she doesn't know any better sometimes. So it was really an emotional read. I really enjoyed it. The artwork in this series is really good. I think at this point in time, this was the best issue of X-23 from Tamaki that I have read at this point. Hopefully there's some good story progression going forward with this, and I want to see how long Gabby is she going to actually be gone for, and is she going to do adventures on her own for a little bit, or what's going to happen here with Laura with not having Gabby in her life at this time too. So really a great book. I enjoyed it a lot, and I'm looking forward to more. Alright, so moving forward, now we go on to the top 3. And this book surprised me this week, and I actually wasn't going to review it because I had this feeling that it was just going to be bad and whatnot, but it was actually really good. And this is Web of Venom, Cult of Carnage, the one-shot. This was really good. This book takes place after Carnage USA, when Carnage took over Doverton, Colorado. I don't even know if I said it right. Where Carnage kind of sprayed his symbiote all over the people, and people wound up dying and everything else. And so this is a story that takes place after that. And this is a very dark story, and however, I loved it. So Misty Knight is called in to investigate Doverton and to actually find out what happened to all the people, because the place is abandoned. J. Jonah's son, John Jameson, is missing, and she's has to go and find him. And so what happens is she winds up finding him, and you get this whole story, this whole investigation that's going on, this mystery of what has happened in this town. There has been dead people that were part of the symbiotes in Carnage USA. They all got their spines ripped out of them, and they've been dug out of their graves, and they're trying to investigate what's going on. So John meets up with this this sheriff, and he gets the story of what has happened and whatnot, and we find out that there's this church that these people actually worship, and it's a crazy book, and they all worship, obviously, Carnage and Knull and whatever else there is. And when John Jameson winds up actually going into the investigation and digging deeper, he tries to sneak in there, and it is absolutely insane. It's just a book that you have to read. It's really an awesome book. It's kind of this whole lead into the event that's going to happen with Carnage. A great mystery, a great story, and the things that happen at the end, you're going to be like, holy cow, that's an awesome read. And you actually get to see Man-Wolf in this book, and so I definitely say pick this book up, especially if you're on the fence about it, or you're not a person that likes one-shots. Great mystery, and with Carnage involved, it's awesome. And what's good about the book too is it doesn't oversell Carnage. It's like Carnage is not in the entire book. It's mainly about John Jameson and what his story was after he did this whole investigation. So really a lot of stuff. Definitely pick it up. It was my number 3. Let's move on to number 2. And my number 2 book of the week this week, guys, goes to Symbiote Spider-Man. This is issue 1. I really love this book. This book was cool. You have Greg Land that does the artwork. Now, Greg Land's art is great when there's no faces involved. But as soon as he puts a face involved, like say for instance, maybe not even a random person. Like Peter Parker, when you're used to a certain characteristic, you expect a certain characteristic. But Peter's face in this book just looks weird. And Felicia's in this book as well, Black Cat. And she looks like any other chick that Greg Land draws in the book. But besides that, all the characters look awesome. The colors look great. And this is a story about Mysterio, how he feels like he has to prove himself, and he wants to prove himself to like his best friend or whatever it is that he went to school with. And he says he's going to rob a bank and whatnot, and then something horribly goes wrong in the bank where a lady gets killed and he feels responsible. Even though Mysterio is a villain, he doesn't want anybody to get killed. And again, a woman got killed in this book, and he feels, again, really responsible for what happens, and he debates about actually giving up being a super villain in the book. And so there are some great moments in this book that make this book shine. For instance, this takes back in the time when Spider-Man had the symbiote suit, and he doesn't realize that it's actually alive at this point. He just thinks it's some alien technology that they created from Secret Wars, okay? And so when black-suited Spider-Man goes out on the town, he's fighting the Human Fly, and you get to see a great picture of the Twin Towers. And I was like, man, that's awesome, you know? I love the little tribute page to the towers there. I thought that was cool. And then there's some great comical moments in here with the Human Fly, and Spider-Man is just sitting there, and he's just like, you know who's going to stop you, Spider-Man? And Spider-Man just starts naming names. And he goes, the Human Fly. And he's like, oh, that would have been my 47th guess. So Peter David knows how to write Spider-Man. He puts the right jokes in at the right time, and it's not overdone. And there's this one point, too, where Spider-Man sits there and goes, your fly's open, and he's spitting out this stuff on him. It's just a great book. It's really a lot of fun to read. At this point in time, you get to see Felicia, who's actually Spider-Man's girlfriend here as well. And she takes note of the black suit, and she's like, dude, that's alive, Pete. And he's like, no, it's not. It's just alien technology. You get to see them visit, you know, Uncle Ben's grave. And there's just a lot of great moments in this book. And by the time you get to the end of it, Mysterio realizes that Spider-Man has this suit, and it changes. And he's like, there's something not right about this. And then the next issue, we're promised, I guess, a villain that we've never seen before that's going to be teaming up with Mysterio to stop Spider-Man, because in the little dialogue box it says, next issue, Spidey faces a mysterious new foe aligned with Mysterio. So I guess we've never seen this person, so in the next book, look for a first appearance of a villain. So this book was a lot of fun. I had a blast with it. The only reason why it can't get my number one this week is, again, that Greg Land artwork. Characters without smiles are drawn fantastic. Characters with faces, they're just weird and awkward, okay? So there you go. Alright, so what was my number one book? Based off of the fans' picks? Well, that goes to Batman Detective Comics issue 1001. Remember how I talked about Tomasi writing Superman? Well, Tomasi's writing Detective Comics, and he is doing a great job here, just like he did with Superman. And I think this kicks off a great story. Now, I never played Arkham Knight, the video game, so I obviously didn't realize that this is, I guess, tied into that game. I'm not sure. But nevertheless, I thought this story was awesome. The artwork was so good. It's done by Brad Walker. Looking at the characters and the colors in this book, it just really pops. And then it's very gritty at the same time. Really, really great book. So we have Arkham Knight in this book that is sitting there, and it makes this false sun, okay? And in the meantime, we wind up seeing this mysterious bat epidemic where all these bats are dying. And so we have Commissioner Gordon examining things. You have Batman looking over bats and trying to find out what's wrong with them and whatnot. And so what happens is you wind up seeing Batman go to, what's her name? oh god, Langstrom's wife. I forgot her first name. But we get to see Langstrom's wife, Man-Bat's wife. She's debating on putting the serum in her body because all she hears is the screaming of the bats. They're all dying. She's connected to these bats. And so right when Batman makes his entrance, right, she sits there and she injects the serum into her body, and then right away she goes to the source of where all these bats are dying and where all they're going. And so what happens is we wind up seeing Batman run into like Arkham Knight's, I guess, people or whatever it is. And he finds that false sun that's above that kingdom, and all of Arkham Knight's like people, they're all knights but with modern technology, and they start firing at Batman, and Batman's like, oh, it's penetrating my armor. He's like, I can't stop it. And they start doing battle against him. He tries his best to win. He tries his best to escape, but whatever he does, it just is a complete failure. And the next thing you wind up seeing is you see Arkham Knight himself has Batman captured, and he has his face under his boot, and Batman's full of arrows and shit like that. And I was just like, damn, this was a good book. I mean, the pacing of this book was good. It was a lot of action, but in the right way, because it had this mystery right from the start, and then it led into the action. And just looking at the detail of this art makes you want to go through this book a couple of times, and it really makes you want to read the next issue. It's a great cliffhanger, and being that I've never played the video game or anything like that, I have no idea what to expect, but I just really love the writing here and the pacing of the book, and I can't wait for issue 1002. So Peter J. Tomasi's off to a good start for this new era of Batman, and looking forward to it. So guys, there you have it. There are my top 5 books, and you saw the honorable mention and the worst pick of the week. So now, guys, I want to hear in the comments below, what were your favorite books of the week? Whether it's a top 10, a top 5, top 3, just one book. Let me know in those comments below. And fans, as always, like I said before, if you like this video, thumbs up, subscribe, and don't forget to hit that notification button. So guys, until that next comic book review, thank you so much for watching Comic Book Corner 2.0, and I'll see you next time. Take care, fans. Bye.